Welcome to Beyond Overeating by Wholesome Lifestyle Project, the Overeating Podcast, where I'll be showing up weekly to share with you what I've learned during my binge eating recovery, helpful tools such as yoga, mindfulness, and energy medicine. My name is Stel, and my purpose is to inform and educate so that you can fast track your recovery in healing your relationship with food and finally trust yourself around the peanut butter jar. Join me as I share top tips, my struggles and triumphs to help inspire or just entertain. Remember, there's nothing wrong with you if you can't stop overeating. That's why I'm here to guide you along the way. Welcome everyone to the Beyond Overeating podcast. My name is Stel Coombe-Heath, binge and emotional eating recovery specialist, and I help women heal their relationship with food and bodies. And today I have a really, really amazing guest with me, and we will be talking about reclaiming our confidence. So, Rochelle Marie, thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have our chat.
Me too. So Rochelle and I met a few weeks ago through a mutual friend, and we actually help similar women who are in the corporate world who feel like they are just go-getters, or they might just feel like they're a little bit overwhelmed. But Rochelle actually helps mostly women who have become mums and who are stepping into back into their careers. And that is just so amazing. So let me read out a little bit about Rochelle, just so that you have a little bit more of an idea of what she does. So Rochelle has worked her way from entry-level roles to leadership positions twice. Wow. After a 12-year career gap to raise her children. And she did this without pretending to be someone she's not. After one too many stories from career moms who were literally vomiting on the way to work due to toxic managers, she developed the Accelerate Your Leadership Method, a step-by-step program to empower women to get their leadership role at work without losing their patience. Wow. Thank you, Rochelle. This is going to be such an interesting episode. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
So, Rochelle, did you want to just give me a little bit of a background as to how you got to help women just regain their confidence?
Yeah, thanks, Del. So I started back at work, like you said in the introduction, 12 years after my first daughter. I have a daughter and a son. My daughter was born. I had a lot of time out of the career world, out of the corporate world. I did work during that time. I was doing retail. I had businesses that I started and stopped many times over the 12 years. So I wasn't a traditional stay-at-home mom. I did a lot of stuff, but I had stepped completely out of my career. And then when I stepped back into it, because it had been 12 years, I thought, oh, no one's going to want to hire me back to where I was before. I'd been I worked my way up quite quickly in my initial career, to be a manager of other people. And then I thought, I need to start again. I'm not where I was. I don't know stuff anymore. People aren't going to look at my resume and think, oh, she did that 12 years ago. Sure, we'll hire her. So I started again at the bottom, and worked my way up. And it took me about 6 years to get back to where I had been when I left my career in the first place. And I can't tell you how frustrating that was. In the beginning, it was fine. I thought this is okay. I'm doing stuff. I know I'm going to work my way up. But the longer it took to just get back to where I'd started, the more frustrated I became, because I knew I could do it. I'd done it before. The skills of leadership don't change. Maybe the people change or the environment changes. The technology certainly changes. But the skills of leadership didn't change. So I was pretty frustrated. And there are a couple of experiences that sort of led me to think, this isn't as simple as I thought it was, not because I'm not good enough, but because of politics and because of the way people hire and because of unconscious biases and all the things that stop women from getting, to the positions that really they deserve to be in. So I did a lot of sort of research and understanding and talking to a lot of people, just for my own interest, just to understand what was going on and how I could do better. And that led to me getting a leadership role. Doing a lot of that work and research and understanding led me to getting my leadership role. And I've now been doing that for a number of years, and I'm thankful that I love it, and I'm still there today. And I just love my work and my people, so it's fun. Um, at the time I got to my leadership role, I started having people sort of come to me, approach me that I didn't necessarily know all that well, and they started talking to me about how they were going through really tough times at work with managers that didn't know how to lead. And unfortunately, they're far too prevalent still in the corporate world, which to me was surprising. We know better, and yet we're still not doing better from a leadership perspective. And I did have one lady that rang me after a workshop I'd run, and she was a participant, and she rang me after and she said, look, I just wanted to get your take on this, but my manager is just, I'm not able to cope with them anymore. I actually had to pull the car over this morning on the way to work, and I vomited out the door because I just can't face another day of being belittled and sidelined and, all of the things that were happening to her. And I can honestly tell you, my heart broke listening to her story. It wasn't the first story that I'd heard along those lines, but it was the worst up until that point. Unfortunately, I have heard worse still since then, which I won't go into today, but there's just too many people in general suffering at the hands of bad managers. And I got to the point where I was like, well, I've got to do something. I can't just sit on the sidelines anymore and, love my job. That doesn't help everybody else. And everybody deserves to come to work and be happy, right?
Yes.
It feels like a fundamental right that we get to turn up to work and be happy. So I thought, what do I know? What can I do that can help this situation? I'm not a counselor. I wasn't able to offer her any, kind of counseling. I made sure she had people to contact. But what I know is leadership. I've lived it. I've breathed it. I've learned it. I've done a myriad of courses in it. And I thought, okay, well, what I can do is look at who isn't in leadership roles yet and who I know are actually leaders at heart, who know how to lead, not just manage. And let's get more of those women into those positions. And I was working with a group of women at the same time who were at that sort of next level, just underneath the leadership level, just underneath middle management level. And I thought, these guys are amazing. Why aren't they there already? And I could see some of the things that had been holding me back were holding them back as well. And so I thought, okay, this is what I can do. I can help women who have been out of their careers for a while, have stepped back into it, have maybe been there 2 or 3 years by now, and are just at that point where it's like, why can't I break through? I call it this level of glass shelf. So it's like there's this glass shelf just above our head. It's not the ceiling because that's way up there. But this level to get to middle management felt like a glass shelf to me, and I just needed to step out from under it so that I could get up onto it. And that's what I help mums do is just get out from under that glass shelf and step up into a leadership role and get promoted. Know how to do that without becoming someone they're not. And that can often, you see that in corporate world where there's sort of women acting like men because, leadership is often seen as a male thing. And so we change ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't had to do that, thankfully. I'm definitely me. I'm not a high-powered corporate woman either. I don't wear stilettos. I don't wear red power suits. I just show up as me. And that's what I want to show other women how to do.
Yes. Oh, that is beautiful. And I think that's so true. We often think that in order for us to move into a, a a leadership role, that we need to change ourselves. But we're often chosen for that role because of just how we are already.
Yes.
We've got the qualities, we've got the skills. And yeah, you're right, we do step into that masculine because we feel like we need to be hard. We need to just be like just be a lot more tough on ourselves and not show any kind of weakness
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
or any emotion for that
Yes.
matter, um, when we do actually step into the limelight of leading people. And I think in particular when we're leading at work, and that can actually be quite exhausting because, like you're saying, if we're not ourselves, even that can kind of start working at our confidence level, because every day we're pretending we are something that we are not.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings that imposter syndrome into play, where it's exhausting, when you're being someone that you're not, and you're all the time you're thinking someone's going to find me out, someone's going to notice that I've got a mask on, that I'm pretending. And like if you were an actor all of the time in Hollywood, you would be flat on the floor exhausted. And that's exactly the same with going to work, trying to be someone that you're genuinely not.
Yeah. And I think, like you were saying, like mums who have had this break from their career, looking after even a bigger um, role, is being a mum, raising children, and, but stepping back in, that's definitely going to possibly put them in a space where they feel like they need to pretend to be someone else. Like you say, they do definitely, they're not the same person as who they were before they went on maternity leave.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very sort of confronting time, I think. And because we've lost that confidence, we're more malleable. We're more likely to be a bit of a chameleon and become who we think we're wanted to be at that time. Whereas if we had the confidence, we wouldn't feel like that. We wouldn't, feel like we needed to change, because we are who we are and we're quite confident in who we are. So, yeah.
Okay, so why do you think women, and in particular mums, why do you think they lose their confidence along the way?
So I think there's a couple of things that come into play. And I know this is from myself, and I've seen this in my clients as well. When we're in our pre-children life, often we've started our careers. I went to uni and then I sort of worked in a bank for a number of years.
Yeah.
And I went up the ranks quite quickly in that time. So within, I think, 4 or 5 years, I'd gone from a part-time telemarketing role while I was at uni to a project manager with other project managers underneath me. So I managed project managers. And I did that. Yeah, that was about 4 years. And so, I was confident in what I was doing. I had control of my world. I had my ego tied up in that. I thought, yeah, I did a good job to get here, and I do a good job every day. And so I'm contributing to society. And, so my ego was wrapped up in that identity of who I was. And then I got pregnant, and I made the decision to leave the corporate world at that stage, not because I was going to have a baby necessarily. It was fortuitous timing, but they went through a merger. It wasn't pleasant. The new culture just didn't gel with me. So I took the opportunity and said, okay, I'm going to leave. Not realizing then that it was going to take me 12 years to get back again. But stepping out and going through the process of having a baby and becoming a mother, I had to let go of my ego, because I no longer was in that role. I certainly no longer had control over what I was doing as much as I would have liked to. This baby has a life of her own, and she's going to tell me mostly what to do for those early years. And so I think I wasn't sure who I was anymore. And, I knew I was a mum, but I wasn't sure what that meant. I think in Western society, mothers they aren't given credit for contributing to society as much as those people that are in the workforce. So, you lose a bit of your ego and a bit of your confidence just through society telling you you're no longer contributing. That doesn't sit well. It's not true, but it's what we're told.
Yeah.
And so I think, we just, our identity isn't as solid anymore, and that comes with a bit of drop in confidence. Not for everyone. Some people take to motherhood and they're completely confident in what they're doing and who they are. That's fantastic. It certainly wasn't me. And then I grew over that time of being a mother. It's the one of the best personal development phases of your life. I think you can't help but grow, and as your children grow, you continue to grow, because you need to continually meet new challenges and face new ways of not being in control. And so when I did go back into my career, I started again. I didn't think anyone would hire me from where I'd left. And so I started again at the bottom and I worked my way up again. And this time it actually took longer for me to get to a leadership role than it had the first time. So by the time I got there, I was just so frustrated, or just before I got there, I was so frustrated with the pace of it, because I knew I could do it. I'd done it before.
Yes.
How could everybody else not see that I could do it? And it was incredibly frustrating. So, you go back in with this different level of confidence. You're sort of a bit more confident in being a mother now, but your confidence in your career has taken a dive. You're a different person. You have different priorities. Everyone else has changed, moved on, moved up. The technology for me, I love technology. It's part of my day job. I thrive on it. I love new stuff. So I had kept up with it. It's not like I'd just dropped off the face of the earth. But it's different coming back into a career, and people are doing things differently and working in different ways. So it's sort of this sudden jolt, and then it starts to climb, and then you go back to something and it drops back down again because it's all unfamiliar.
Yeah, and it's definitely that, I think, that glass ceiling you mentioned earlier, where we actually start doubting ourselves, if we don't see that movement, or we just start thinking negative thoughts about ourselves.
Yes.
And the more we don't see maybe that's that's success in the career, and we see other people who might not have kids, or who have been in the role more consistently, we see them being promoted, and that feeds that story again, that that eats at our confidence, that maybe we are not good enough, or maybe I'm not sure. I'm not a mum, so I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts that go through mums' heads of like, maybe I'm not meant for this, or maybe, I'm just meant to take it easy. But then they also have these absolute visions for themselves and their careers.
Yeah.
So it can create a bit of a conflict as well, I guess.
Yeah, that's entirely right. It's like, you get to a point where you're like, maybe this isn't, I've got kids. I can focus on the kids. They're busy. I've got to, as they grow older, I've got to take them to sports, and, they have music nights and plays and all the things that you do as a mom. And so maybe that's where I'm meant to focus my attention. And yet at the same time, you have this calling, and it just doesn't feel enough to fill your soul. For some women it does, and I'm so like, that's fantastic for them. For me, it never did. I loved my kids. I loved doing things with them and for them, but there was always a gap for me. And it is in that space where I know I can make a difference to people. I know I'm here to make a bigger difference in the world. As much as I want to make a difference for my kids and make, the world an amazing place for my kids. And that's part of my why is, I want people, particularly my kids, to be able to go to work and be happy. I had this calling in me to make a difference to people, and I knew I could do that in a leadership role. And I knew I was capable of it. And so, yes, I could have stepped back. I could have let all those thoughts permeate in my head and listened to them. But I didn't. I did some research instead because I'm a bit of a scientist in that way. And so rather than assuming it was me, which I did to some extent, I sort of put that to the test and looked at, is it really me? Is it really that that I'm not suited for this role, that I can't do this role? And the answer is no, and a little bit yes.
Yeah.
And we can get into that if you want.
Beautiful. So, when when women, especially when they feel like their confidence, they they are in a little bit of a confident knock, how do you feel that affects their relationship with food and their bodies?
I mean, a lot of ways, and it did with me to some extent as well. I think we can, like, there's definitely the emotional eating. So we want to do activity rather than look inside and understand what's going on emotionally. So I did some of that when I was a young mum, and I think just it becomes a bit of a cycle. So you put weight on and you go out and you feel like everybody's looking at you and judging you. And so you become less confident. And that leads to a sort of circle of, well, I'm not feeling good about myself right now, so I'm going to have a muffin because that'll make me feel better. I'm definitely a muffin fiend. Um, and so then, and then straight after you feel that guilt and you feel down on yourself. And so your confidence slips again and it just becomes this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be a stop in that somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you made a really good point there is a lot of people think that the lack of confidence comes possibly from the weight gain, of the change of our bodies or women's bodies when they go through pregnancy or just after pregnancy from all the hormones. But oftentimes that confidence has already been knocked back. Um, and the emotional eating is just aggravating that in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's a self-perpetuating cycle.
Mm,
And if you do work on your inner self and your confidence, then you can break the cycle. Rather, yeah, there's various ways that you can come at it, and that's obviously your area. But I know for myself, my body's not perfect by any means. I've lost weight recently, but it's more from me working on myself than it is, necessarily worrying about so much the eating side. So yeah, to me, that confidence piece has been key to me.
yeah, absolutely. And it is amazing how our bodies try and protect us when we don't feel confident.
Yeah.
And I actually had this conversation with one of my clients the other day, where she felt like she's just been through immense stress, a few like medical procedures. Her dog has been through medical procedures, and she's like, yeah, just I really don't feel comfortable in my body right now. I hate this fat. I just want it off. And I said to her, do you know that that's more there for you to protect you?
Yeah.
And when we don't feel confident, unfortunately, our bodies will find a way to protect our vital organs,
Yes.
whether you're eating healthy or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that in that. So not related to weight, but in a very physical form. My son towards the end of high school went through a period where he just all of a sudden became, like, lost his confidence. And overnight he hunched his body over and protected his
The
organs
organs,
by
yeah,
being extremely hunched over. It was so striking to see the
yeah,
change overnight of losing confidence, protect. It's
yes.
amazing. So yeah, it's just another way of showing how it happens.
Exactly, absolutely. So, I think if anyone else is listening out there and you do feel like your confidence is being knocked and you do feel you are eating to support yourself in some way or form, just understand that it's not the eating, that's not the issue. Um, unfortunately, we need to dig a little bit deeper and see what is actually bringing that through. So thank you, Rochelle, for bringing that up. Such a good point.
Yeah, so true. So true.
Beautiful. So earlier you mentioned the ego, and often we think the ego is that, when we think about ego, we always think of someone who is arrogant and, just that altruistic ego. However, we all have ego,
Yeah.
and we all have a certain level of ego, I guess. And how would you say we build that through our careers, and how does it get affected when we do step away from that role, when new mums move into their mum role?
So I think ego is tied to the way you see yourself. It is about how you see yourself, and so when you see yourself in a positive light, your ego becomes more like higher, more confident. When you see yourself in a negative light, your ego drops down. And I think, sort of looking at, and it is tied a bit to society and how we feel like society is telling us we should live our lives. But it does become tied to your identity. So if you see yourself as someone who is a career person, and there's a good example of this in men's careers, because men are more consistent with their careers so far. We're hoping that changes, but at the moment, they have the breadwinner title and they stay in their career for 50 years and then retire with a gold watch. So their egos are very closely tied to who they are at work and what they bring to work, and what contribution they're making and who they can help. And so often you find that the minute that men retire, their ego is just left untethered. They have no idea who they are anymore. And one of the highest rates of death for men is soon after retirement, because they're just completely lost without their ego. And so I think we as new mums suffer that at an earlier point. Obviously, we haven't waited until retirement to become mums for the most part. And so we're not quite as tied up in our ego as men are at that point of retirement, because they've had a long time of tying their self-identity to that breadwinner, that worker, that, productive in society. But it still affects us a lot. There is a lot there. And I think it's hard work to let go of ego. It takes quite a lot of inner strength and work before you can sort of go, okay, I am not the work. I am not the contribution to society. That does not define me, and it does not give me my worth. I am just worthy because I am.
Yeah.
And we need to get to that point where our ego is not dependent on what we're doing in the world or who we think we should be.
Yes.
Our ego is just dependent on we are.
Yes,
That's
absolutely. Yeah. I always come back to we are all beings of having a human experience. So we are all worthy of anything and everything in this world.
Yeah.
Whether it's love or relationships or careers or whatever we desire, like we are worthy of that. And the only thing that's holding us back from that is ourselves and our minds and how we think about ourselves.
Exactly. It seems easy, but it's a lot of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm saying this now after many years of working on myself. So
Exactly. I think the one good thing I found about letting go of more of my ego, and it's definitely a work in practice, but it also means that you get to let go of the bad parts of your ego. So if something has gone wrong, you also don't have to take that on board. If something goes right, it's not all up to you. And if something goes wrong, it's not all up to you. So there's some good things that come out of letting go of ego.
Absolutely. So, Rochelle, what is the ABC to reclaiming confidence?
So this is a course that I developed for people because I could see that this was the first step to being able to get into a leadership role, was just reclaiming that confidence. And we've talked a lot about how we had it, we did have it, and so it's not that we've never had confidence for the most part. It's reclaiming what we had, and I think I've sort of been thinking around this a lot lately in a bit of a deeper way. And what I've come to the conclusion of is the beginning phase of reclaiming that confidence is courage. It takes courage. And in a way, that's easier to come by than confidence, because confidence takes a while. It takes practice, and it takes feeling competent again. And that leads you to feeling confident. And so the courage to step up and do something that you might not be feeling confident about right now leads you eventually to confidence. And so the course that I put together, the ABC, it helps you through 3 different phases of building on your courage that will lead you to confidence. And just briefly, and you can, we can touch on one a little deeper if you're wanting to, but the 3 steps are claiming an alter ego. And I love that. It's a way of stepping it up to courage that feels a lot lighter and easier. And then dealing with your limiting beliefs, because we have them. There's a lot of them. If you're anything like me, we have a lot of limiting beliefs. And so being able to work through them is, again, key to coming through with courage and key to building your confidence in the long term. And then the C is the one I love as well, is stepping out of your comfort zone. So that's where your courage comes into its own. It's actually taking action on things that aren't in your little bubble of comfort. And so, yeah, putting all those 3 together, that really helps you to use that courage to become confident and work into confidence.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I think that's like, you've touched on all the fundamentals there, like, and especially if we've worked through building ourselves up in just like understanding who we are in our ego, or just as we are as a person, then we can start noticing those limiting beliefs, which all of us have. We're born with it. It's something we program, and it's something we feed. And that's definitely going to keep us into the comfort zone, like you mentioned. And yeah, it's amazing that you can actually help women see past that and actually have the courage to break through that comfort zone, because a lot of us often say, yeah, I want to do this, but I feel safe. I feel safe just where I am right now.
Yeah.
Instead of the fear that might come from just taking one step in that direction.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, our brains are wired to keep us safe. That's their job. They're doing their job well. However, keeping us safe doesn't allow us to grow. And, the growth is where the amazing things come from. And so getting into the practice of being courageous is an amazing skill. It's an amazing skill, and it changes your life. It changed my life. So it will change anybody's life once they've got the courage to do it.
That's amazing. Now, earlier you mentioned that you've developed the Accelerate Your Leadership method to help women step into their leadership role. Do you have maybe just a 1 or 2 little tips that for anyone who's listening from this method?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was born of my research, really, of what helps women in particular. This applies more to women than men, and there is science behind how women get promoted easier than and it's different than how men get promoted. So I've sort of combined all that into the Accelerate Your Leadership method. And there's 3 main pillars that women need to get really solid that help us accelerate that leadership journey. So I'm not saying without these you're never going to be a leader, but with these you will accelerate the journey and get there a lot faster. So the 3 pillars, one we've kind of touched on is that inner work. It's getting working on your confidence and your courage and a whole lot of other areas of how your brain works, so that when you turn up to work, you show up as your best self, and you bring your A game, not somebody else's A game, your own A game. And so, you're not there with a mask on, you're just there being you, but it's a really good version of you. So, the inner work is key. The next pillar that we work on is connection. And as women, we are really strong at connecting and collaborating. It might be, as introverts, and I'm an introvert, I count myself in that camp. It's a one-on-one connection, and that works just fine. As an extrovert, it's more of a, scattergun. A whole lot of people makes us feel comfortable, and that approach is also just fine. So the connection is a key piece, and we really, work through that and ways that you can do that align with you. And then the final piece is showing up. It's visibility, it's being seen. And often as women, we're socialized not to be seen. We're socialized to be behind the scenes. We're socialized to nurture and care and lift other people up, but not be the front of them, not be front and center. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Except our organizations are not geared for that. They're not, if they can't see you, then they don't know that you're good at those skills, and you don't get promoted. So it's really working on how to become more visible in a way that, again, feels right for you. It's not about having to stand on a stage and speak in front of 200 people. I know that would terrify a lot of women, so that's definitely not what I'm asking you to do. Although I actually feel quite comfortable in that space, more than I would going to a networking event and having to do small talk to a whole lot of people. That's not me either. It's those three pieces that really form the foundation of being able to accelerate your leadership journey. And it works. I've seen it work. It's fantastic.
Oh, beautiful. That sounds so amazing. And such great pillars to and foundations to actually really work. And I'm sure that your clients are very happy after they've been through that process.
Yeah, I think the real bonus of this is not only do you get promoted, but it just changes your whole life. So one of my clients, her comment to me, she's got 3 young children. She's got a whole lot of other stuff going on in her life. She got promoted to a leadership role. So everything's happening. And she said to me, because of this course, I've never felt more zen than I do right now.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
So it's life-changing, not just, leader making. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and some of your tips with us today. You actually mentioned that you have a little gift for members who are tuning in.
Yeah, I would love to gift a mini course on it is titled The ABC to Reclaiming Your Confidence. And I would love to gift that to anyone that's listening today that is ready to embrace that alter ego and get working on the courage to become confident.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We will put all of that information in the show notes. Rochelle, did you want to just share one way in which you like to appreciate your body?
I started, so when I went on the confidence journey, when I started really investigating this and understanding what works, there's one piece that's not in my mini course, but it is in my Accelerate Your Leadership Masterclass section. I look in the mirror and look myself in the eye and say, I love you. And that took me a lot of courage to do when I first started to do it, because I wasn't used to that. And I love you wasn't a thing I said a lot. It wasn't a family thing that, we didn't say that a lot in our family growing up. And so the power that brings you to just stare at yourself in your own eyes and say, I love you, is huge. And it really works for me and my body.
Oh, that is beautiful. And that is something that I encourage my clients to do as well, or even just look yourself in the eye and just say something positive about yourself. If you can't say I love you yet, it's going to be a process. You have to work up to it. And yeah, such a brave thing to do that first time. I remember doing that. It was something I needed to do as part of my recovery journey, and I didn't really believe it. So it kind of felt awkward. But as I got into that ritual of just looking myself even in the eyes and just saying like, Stel, I'm so proud of you today. You did such an amazing job with, just looking after yourself. Those kind of things just like help me become more okay with saying I love you towards the end.
Yeah. I found too, when I first started saying it, I didn't particularly believe it. It didn't, it felt a bit hollow. And it's just through repetition that it's become far more meaningful, and I mean it now. And it's, it feels just amazing in your body to mean it. But don't think that that's where you start.
No, definitely not. Rochelle, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your stories with us. Did you want to just let everyone know where they can find you on social media or wherever you hang out?
Yeah, so I'm mostly in my Facebook groups. I'd love women that are looking to step up into leadership roles at work to join us there, because there's an amazing group of women in there. But the easiest way to find me is to go to my website, which is herleadershipway.com. So herleadershipway.com. And you'll find a link there to the Facebook and any other socials. And you'll also find the gifted mini course on confidence in there as well. So come and find me. I'd love to see you.
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you so much. We will put all those links in the show notes. Thank you, Rochelle, for joining me today. This has been an amazing episode.
Thank you so much, Stel. I've enjoyed our conversation. I love talking about this stuff. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks everyone for watching or for tuning in and listening. If you would like to build your confidence, go and download Rochelle's guide. I'm sure you're going to gain so much clarity and so much value out of that. Go and follow her on the links we'll pop in the show notes. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Beyond Overeating podcast. I look forward to the next episode, and I'll see you there. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today, and don't forget to share this with all your friends. You can do this by adding this to your Instagram story and tagging me at Wholesome Lifestyle Project, or by simply telling them about it. If you could rate and review on whatever platform you are listening, this will go a long way in helping me get this podcast out there so that I can share my message and help as many women out there struggling with food issues as I can. Don't forget, you can follow me on Instagram on Wholesome Lifestyle Project, or connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Stel Coombe-Heath, and that's where you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.